What if everything you believe about life, from the stories you heard as a child to the truths repeated to you at school and in society, were nothing more than a carefully constructed narrative to keep you within a safe confines? Imagine for a moment that your reality were merely a superficial layer of something infinitely greater, and that behind dogmas, laws, and traditions lay a secret so powerful that history itself sought to hide it. Not because it was useless, but because it was too dangerous to reveal. Dangerous to kings, to priests, to rulers, and to any system that relies on controlling the human mind. Now think, what would you do if you discovered that this secret had always been around you, whispered in ancient books, engraved in forgotten symbols, and repeated by those who dared to see beyond? Nikola Tesla believed that humanity sat on an ocean of unexplored knowledge. He spoke not merely as a scientist or inventor, but as someone who dared to gaze into the invisible with the mind's eye. For him, the universe was not a silent space, but a living symphony of vibratory forces. Every star, every atom, every thought emitted a frequency, a wave capable of influencing everything around it. Tesla argued that if we wanted to understand life in its entirety, we needed to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. He believed this was the true language of the cosmos, the secret alphabet that underpins both the laws of physics and the mysteries of spirituality. But if this language is so fundamental, why does almost no one speak it? The answer may be disturbing. Human history is full of examples of silenced knowledge, erased discoveries, burned books, and persecuted ideas. What didn't serve to keep the masses obedient was buried under layers of fear and superstition. And what could more threaten the power of empires than the individuals awakening to their own creative capacity? Imagine a society in which each person knew that their thoughts shape their reality, that each emotion generates waves that propagate far beyond the body, that each gesture is a code resonating in the fabric of existence. Such a society does not bow to dogma, does not fear kings, does not accept living chained by invisible structures. Perhaps that is why this secret was hidden. Tesla, in his lifetime, experienced this conflict firsthand. He dreamed of a humanity free from scarcity, fueled by abundant and free energy drawn from the Earth's own electromagnetic field. His wireless transmission projects, capable of bringing electricity anywhere in the world at no cost, were interrupted and sabotaged. Banks and industrialists feared his ideas would destroy the foundations of their profits. The invention that could bring freedom was stifled by the economic machinery that thrives on imprisonment. And here arises the first provocation. If even a genius like Tesla had his vision silenced, how many other truths might have been hidden from you over the centuries? Think about how many times you felt something inside you, telling you that life is bigger than what it appears to be. A hunch, an intense dream, an intuition that seemed to come from a place beyond logic. Perhaps these experiences were dismissed as coincidence or imagination. But what if Tesla was right? What if these sensations were signs that you, just as he believed, are a living broadcasting station, capable of emitting and receiving frequencies that shape your reality? What would happen if you took this seriously? The human mind, according to Tesla, is a constant transmitter. Whether you're conscious or not, thoughts, feelings, and intentions are always traveling, intersecting, colliding, and creating patterns. The universe responds to these emissions with a precision he believed to be mathematical. And while this is frightening, it also liberates. Because if your life up until now has been a reflection of unconscious signals, imagine what could happen if you began to emit them with clarity and intention. But here arises the first micro-conflict. Are you ready to take on this responsibility? Are you willing to accept that your defeats, your repetitive patterns, and even your pain may be the result of an internal emission that you yourself feed? Tesla didn't see this as a metaphor but as science. For him, there was no separation between spirituality and physics, between religion and technology. There were simply different ways of translating the same phenomenon. Where the ancients spoke of the soul, he spoke of an energy field. Where divine light was spoken of, he saw electromagnetic waves. Where prayer was spoken of, he perceived vibration. The bridge was there, but few dared to cross it. And it is precisely this bridge that can change the way you see yourself and the world. Consider the power of a simple thought. How many times have you woken up certain the day would be difficult, only to have everything around you confirm that idea? Or conversely, how many times have you decided to believe something would work out, only to have circumstances fall into place in your favor. Tesla believed there was no chance in these situations. The invisible field that surrounds us responds only to the signal we transmit. If this is true, then your life has never been random. It has always been a vibrational reflection of what you emanated. This is perhaps the most uncomfortable part of this revelation, because if the universe responds, there are no more excuses. You can't blame bad luck, blind fate, or the cruelty of others for what continually repeats itself in your life. But you can't hide behind it either, because if the same law that reinforces your patterns can be used against you, it can also be used to your advantage. The field doesn't judge, it only gives back. And herein lies the paradox. You are simultaneously victim and creator, hostage and architect. And Tesla invites us to choose which side of the equation we want to live on. Now consider the impact of this on a societal scale. If each individual were aware that they are transmitters of frequencies capable of shaping their reality, what kind of empire could sustain itself? What political system could withstand a population that doesn't need fear to obey? What economy could survive in the face of human beings who understand that abundance comes not from without, but from within? Perhaps this is precisely why the secrets were buried, because an awakened humanity cannot be manipulated. Tesla believed that the true revolution would come not from the machines we create, but from the consciousness we have yet to learn to awaken. The question is inevitable. Are we ready to look beyond what we have been taught? Are we prepared to accept that we are not just bodies traveling through time, but vibrational transmitters connected to an invisible network we call the universe? If everything we've said so far makes you uneasy, it's because the seed has already germinated. Unrest is a sign that something inside you recognizes there's more. And this is just the surface of what Tesla called the language of the universe: energy, frequency, and vibration. If these are the notes, the question that remains is, what symphony are you playing in your own life? And before you try to answer, let me pose the question that will be the gateway to the next step. If this secret was silenced, if Tesla was interrupted, if the ancients were forgotten, why is this knowledge resurfacing now? Could the world be, once again, at a turning point? Could it be that only those who awaken to this invisible language will be able to cross the threshold of the future? This is the provocation Tesla leaves us, a question that resonates to this day. Will you continue living as a passive receiver of other people's signals, or will you dare to recognize yourself as a conscious transmitter, capable of architecting your own reality? The silence that lingers after this question is the true beginning of a choice. Because as he said, everything vibrates, everything responds, and the question is not whether you participate in it, but how. What will you do with this secret that has now once again pulsed before your eyes? What if the human body were not just flesh, bones, and blood, but a meticulous replica of the universe itself? What if every cell, every heartbeat, and every electrical impulse in the nervous system were not just biological processes, but echoes of a larger pattern, reflections of what Tesla called the vibrational order of the cosmos? The idea may seem bold, but it is exactly what both the ancients and Nikola Tesla believed. They saw man not as an isolated creature, but as a microcosm, a living miniature of the entire universe. Tesla translated this thought into his scientific language. For him, the human being was an organic antenna, made to receive, amplify, and transmit invisible frequencies. Think of something simple. Have you ever walked into a quiet place but immediately felt a tension in the air? No one said anything, but there was something there that weighed on you. Or perhaps you felt the opposite, encountering someone whose presence brought instant calm, even without a word. These phenomena are not mere emotional coincidences. They are signs that every human body is constantly emitting and absorbing vibrations, as if we were all part of a vast living electrical grid. Tesla believed that this invisible field was as real as the electricity that powered his lamps, and that understanding this mechanism was essential to understanding not only the world, but ourselves. But if we are living antennas, the inevitable question arises: what are we transmitting? Imagine the body as a radio station. When the tuning is clear, the sound is pure, the message is understandable. But when there is interference, noise, and distortion, everything is lost. The same happens with our energy. When we are aligned, we radiate clarity, confidence, and balance. When we are confused, overwhelmed by fear or anger, The signal we transmit is noisy, and reality responds with chaos. Tesla said that man is an inseparable part of the universe, just as a cell is an inseparable part of an organism. This means that what happens within us reverberates outside, and what happens outside reverberates within us. He saw life as a closed circuit of energy. This vision forces us to reconsider experiences that we often dismiss as mere intuition or imagination. Think of all the times you trusted someone without logical reason, simply because you felt something, or when you knew you shouldn't follow a path, even though all practical reasons pointed to the contrary. These experiences are echoes of the antenna that is you, and if Tesla is right, ignoring them means disconnecting from your true nature. In everyday life, this dynamic appears in details we don't notice. A mother who senses danger when her child is still far away. A friend who calls just when you need help. The silence that hangs heavy in a room after an argument, even without words. All of this is evidence that we constantly transmit and receive signals. Tesla believed that the human brain is not the source of consciousness, but merely the device that translates invisible waves into thoughts. Just as a radio doesn't create music, but merely tunes into frequencies that already exist, the human mind captures, modulates, and returns signals from the cosmic field. Now ask yourself, if this is true, how many times have you lived repeating patterns you didn't understand? How many times have you attracted similar situations, similar people, recurring conflicts? What if these repetitions weren't the result of chance, but of an internal signal you transmit without realizing it? Tesla warned us about this possibility, that many live like uncalibrated antennas, reproducing emotional noises that end up becoming life circumstances. Fear attracts experiences that reinforce fear. Guilt attracts situations that intensify guilt. Likewise, inner clarity opens unexpected doors, and quiet trust creates opportunities that seem magical, but are actually just echoes. Think of someone who constantly expects the worst. This person enters a room already carrying the expectation of failure or rejection. Their body, their posture, their gaze, everything emits this frequency. And as a result, the environment reacts. People respond accordingly, and the cycle is confirmed. It's not a spell or superstition, it's a vibration. On the other hand, think of someone who trusts, even in the midst of difficulties. This trust shapes their body, their voice, their presence. Others respond differently, opportunities arise, and life seems to conspire in their favor. Tesla saw this as a universal law. Everything vibrates, everything resonates, everything responds. But there's a conflict here, a discomfort that can't be ignored. If we accept this view, we're forced to admit that we're not just recipients of external circumstances, but active participants in everything that happens to us. This takes us out of the comfortable position of victims of fate and places us in the challenging position of co-authors of our own reality. Are you ready to accept that some of what happens to you may be a consequence of what you yourself transmit? Are you willing to face Tesla's mirror and recognize that life is a reflection of the invisible field you emit? Now imagine a city seen from above at night. Thousands of antennas, millions of radio, television, and internet signals, all crossing space, silently intersecting. This is the perfect portrayal of what happens to human beings. We live emitting waves of thoughts, emotions, and intentions. They intersect, overlap, creating collective patterns. It's no wonder that when a crowd gathers, an energy is born that seems greater than the sum of each individual. Tesla would say that this collective field is as real as any physical force, and perhaps that's why social movements, revolutions, or even mass celebrations carry an intensity almost impossible to explain by common logic. In everyday life, this same logic manifests itself on a small scale. A group of friends laughing together creates an atmosphere that's contagious, even to those who don't know the reason for their joy. A work team constantly in conflict creates a tense environment that wears down everyone involved. A couple living in heavy silence conveys more than words could ever say. All of this is vibration in action. All of this confirms that we are living microcosms, repeating on a small scale what the universe does on a large scale. Tesla insisted that nothing in the cosmos is isolated. He believed that every atom is influenced by forces beyond its visible form, and that every human being bears this same imprint. For him, to deny this connection was to live with half a vision. If we accept this idea, then the question arises that imposes itself as an inevitable conflict. If we are microcosms, what kind of universe are we reflecting within us? Are we emitting signals of harmony, or are we projecting chaos? And here lies the suspense that cannot be avoided. If each of us is a living antenna, if every thought and emotion travels beyond the body, then what happens when we begin to consciously tune our transmissions? Can we truly alter not only our personal experiences, but even the collective field around us? Could shifting a single frequency trigger greater transformations than we imagine? Tesla believed so. He saw in man not a prisoner of the world, but a potential transmitter, capable of reshaping his own reality when he learned to consciously use the power of his vibration. But before we reach this possibility, we must face an even more disturbing question. If everything vibrates, if everything transmits, what are we emitting right now, at this very moment, without realizing it? And what consequences is this already having on our lives, even when we believe nothing is happening? This is the point where reflection ceases to be comfortable and begins to become provocation. Because if Tesla is right, ignoring this knowledge is choosing to live blindfolded. And if he is right, becoming aware of this power is crossing a boundary from which there is no return. Because from the moment you realize you transmit, you can no longer hide behind the excuse of being merely a receiver. Your life becomes a reflection of your emission. And this is where the uneasiness arises, paving the way for the next revelation. If life is a field of invisible transmissions, and if you are a living antenna, what will happen when you understand that your thoughts and emotions are not trapped within you, but travel through space like waves that inevitably return? The answer to this question is the first step toward entering the territory Tesla called the invisible field, where every transmission is recorded and returned, and perhaps it is precisely there that the greatest secret of all lies hidden. What if your mind weren't just a space where thoughts are born and die, but a veritable cosmic radio station, emitting uninterrupted signals that traverse time and space? Nikola Tesla believed exactly this, that every emotion, every idea, and every impulse of consciousness doesn't remain locked inside the brain, but propagates like electrical waves, influencing the world in ways we rarely perceive. For him, the human mind wasn't a closed system, but an active transmitter in constant dialogue with reality. This means that you, right now, are transmitting something. What could the universe be picking up from you at this very moment? The first reaction might be skeptical. After all, we've been taught to think that thoughts are private, and feelings belong only to the inner self. But how many times have you walked into a room and, without anyone saying anything, immediately sensed whether the atmosphere was charged or light? How many times has someone's mere presence changed your mood? These common examples hide a disturbing truth. Our invisible transmissions are real. If the body is an antenna and the heart is a powerful magnetic field, the mind is the transmitter that directs everything. What you project from within is exactly what you'll find on the outside. But if this is true, doesn't an inevitable question arise? If everything we feel and think is always being emitted, then what are we creating without realizing it? How many of our failures, the repeated situations we face, are not reflections of unconscious transmissions that we reinforce day after day? Tesla believed that reality is a mathematical response to the signals we emit. He said that life doesn't happen by coincidence, but by resonance. If you vibrate with fear, you attract experiences that confirm that fear. If you vibrate with confidence, you open doors that seemed impossible. This logic forces us to look at our lives in a new light. Could it be that many of the obstacles we face are constructed, albeit unconsciously, by ourselves? Imagine someone who lives believing they don't deserve to be happy. This silent thought, repeated day after day, isn't limited to the mind. It spreads like a frequency that shapes the body, voice, posture, and even the way others perceive that person. Opportunities seem to close, relationships become more burdensome, and life confirms the belief. But is it really the world that rejects, or the signal emitted that creates the rejection? Now consider the opposite. Someone who, even without external evidence, deeply believes in their ability to thrive. This conviction creates clarity, instills trust, and causes others to respond differently. For Tesla, this wasn't magic but physics in action. And if it's true that we're all already transmitting all the time, why haven't we learned to do so consciously? This is perhaps one of the biggest flaws in our education. We've been taught to memorize formulas, but not to understand the vibrational power of the mind. What would change in your life if you'd learned from childhood that every thought is a returning wave? Tesla didn't believe the mind created only illusions. He asserted that thoughts are real vibrations, capable of generating magnetic fields around us. Today, neuroscience itself confirms part of this view. Every electrical impulse in the brain creates measurable waves, but Tesla went further. For him, these waves weren't trapped in the body. They traversed space, connecting us to an invisible network, larger than we can imagine. Isn't it strange to think that just as our cell phones connect to invisible towers, our consciousness can also connect to something far beyond what we see? Now, imagine a detail that could change your perception. How many times have you thought of someone, only to have that person contact you shortly after? How many times have an idea popped into your head, only to discover that someone else was already thinking exactly the same thing? Were these coincidences, or were they signs that we are all connected to this invisible field described by Tesla? If this is true, a new challenge arises. If the world is a response to our transmissions, then each of us is constantly shaping our lives. Do you still believe you're merely a spectator of chance? Or are you beginning to suspect that, invisibly, you're the author of much more than you realize? Tesla applied this principle even to his scientific practice. He didn't immediately build his inventions. Rather, he visualized them in detail, rehearsing their operation in his mind until he felt they were ready. He said he could turn entire engines in his imagination, observing faults and correcting them before even touching any physical part. What does this show us? That imagination, when charged with clarity and intention, is not fantasy, it is transmission. When we repeat mental images with intensity, the invisible field responds, organizing what seemed impossible. But if imagination can create, what happens when we use this power unconsciously, repeating images of fear, pain, or defeat? Isn't this precisely what traps us in patterns we swear we want to avoid? Could it be that we are creating what we fear most because, without realizing it, that's what we vibrate toward? This is the deepest conflict of this idea, realizing that the mind is an active station not just when we want it to be, but all the time. And this means that the life we live today is largely the result of transmissions we never control. But what if we started directing these signals? If we began to choose, with clarity and discipline, what to send into the invisible field? What would change in your life if you took this control? Perhaps you've experienced something like this without realizing it. Think about a day when you woke up feeling clear-headed, determined to face everything calmly. And suddenly people seemed more open, problems were resolved more easily, and even small details fell into place. Now compare that to those days when you woke up grumpy, anxious, or tired. The traffic seemed worse, the people more hostile, the problems more difficult. What really changed? The world outside, or the frequency you transmitted? Tesla claimed that coincidences are merely the invisible reflection of our emissions. The universe, he said, makes no mistakes. It returns what it receives with mathematical precision. But are we ready to accept this responsibility? Can we face the idea that we are constant transmitters and that therefore neutrality does not exist? Because even apathy transmits. Even silence has a field. Even the absence of intention is a frequency. And if so, what has been your dominant transmission? Is it clarity or confusion? Trust or fear? Gratitude or resentment? These questions aren't theoretical. They're invitations to observe your life as a vibrational mirror. Because if you look closely, you'll see that the world around you is already responding to what you emit. Perhaps this is the true power of Tesla's idea. It forces us to let go of the illusion that we are at the mercy of fate. It reminds us that we are active transmitters, connected to an invisible field that returns exactly what we send out. The question is whether we will continue to transmit chaotically, or whether we will learn to direct our signals clearly. And here's the provocation that pushes us forward. If your mind is a cosmic radio station, and your life is the reflection of its transmissions, what will happen when you decide to take conscious control of the frequency you emit? How far can you go in becoming the conductor of your own vibrational symphony? Perhaps this is precisely where the true revolution begins. Not a revolution wrought by machines or governments, but a silent, invisible revolution, built within each mind that dares to awaken to the power of its own transmission. What if what you do every day, without thinking, were actually the lost key to accessing a forgotten vibrational power. Take a deep breath for a moment. It seems simple, natural, automatic. But Nikola Tesla believed that nothing was closer to the essence of the universe than the act of inhaling and exhaling. For him, air was not just oxygen, but the vehicle of an invisible force that circulates in everything, a subtle electric current that connects the human body to the cosmos itself. When we breathe consciously, Tesla said, it's as if we close a circuit, adjusting the frequency of our inner transmitter. And when we exhale, we not only release carbon dioxide, but also return to the world the vibrational signature of what we carry within us. This thought may seem poetic, but modern science is already beginning to confirm aspects of this view. Studies on deep breathing show that just 3 minutes of conscious inhaling and exhaling can reduce levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, by up to 30%. Another surprising finding comes from research on ancient breathing practices, such as Indian pranayama. People who breathe in controlled rhythms have greater cardiac coherence, meaning their heartbeats align more harmoniously, which strengthens the immune system, regulates emotions, and improves mental clarity. If such a simple gesture can bring about such profound transformations, why is it that almost no one teaches us this in childhood? The answer may lie where so many other truths have been buried. A human being who masters their own internal rhythm is harder to manipulate. Those who learn to calm themselves down in seconds don't depend on anxiolytics. Those who learn to consciously oxygenate their brain think more clearly and question imposed narratives more. Those who discover they can, with a simple breath, alter their state of consciousness don't need intermediaries to experience the sacred. Isn't it strange that something so powerful has been reduced, in the modern world, to an automatic, almost irrelevant act? But breathing was never irrelevant to ancient traditions. In Egypt, breath was called ka, the vital energy that connected the living to the gods. In Greece, pneuma meant both air and spirit. In India, prana was the force that sustained all that exists. And in the Bible, the word ruach is also translated as breath and spirit. Tesla, with his simultaneously scientific and mystical vision, realized what all these people seem to intuit. Breathing is much more than survival. It is an active participation in the vibrational symphony of the universe. Think of a common situation. You're about to face something important, like a crucial meeting, a test, or even a difficult conversation. Your heart races, your mind becomes confused, your hands sweat. At this moment, most of us fight the symptoms, trying to hide our anxiety, mask our insecurity. But consider, how many times before taking the next step have you taken a deep breath? How many times has a simple sigh calmed your body? It wasn't magic, it was vibrational science. Your autonomic nervous system responds to your breathing pattern, and a deeper breath sends a signal to your brain. We are safe. Your body reorganizes, your mind clears, and the simplest gesture becomes a fine-tuning of your frequency. Now, imagine if this knowledge were used consciously and continuously. Imagine if, instead of breathing shallowly and rapidly, you began practicing a deep, rhythmic breathing rhythm every day. Your body would gradually become more coherent, your energy field would expand, and the world would begin to respond differently. This isn't a matter of belief, but of repeated experience. Have you ever noticed how small children breathe? The abdomen expands naturally. The lungs fill completely, as if the whole body were participating in the process. It's only over time, with the stress and anxiety of modern life, that we begin to breathe shallowly and shallowly. It's as if we're gradually disconnecting from our own energy source. But Tesla saw something greater in the human body than simple biology. He compared the flow of respiration to the electrical flows of his machines. When air circulates freely, the current is clear. When there are blockages, the system collapses. He said that breathing was a way of adjusting the body's resonance field, meaning that breathing poorly isn't just a matter of physical health, but of vibrational distortion. Now think, how many bad decisions were made because someone was breathing shallowly, rapidly, trapped in anxiety? How many conflicts could have been avoided if people had learned to pause, take a deep breath, and then act? Perhaps this is why, in ancient cultures, warriors and priests practiced breathing before any important action. Japanese samurai practiced breathing techniques to maintain focus during battle. Tibetan monks used tumo, a breathing practice capable of generating enough internal heat to withstand sub-zero temperatures, something that still intrigues scientists today. These examples show that breathing is not a detail of physiology, but a gateway to altered states of consciousness and extraordinary capabilities. What if you could transform your life not with a major external revolution, but by starting with something as simple as changing the way you breathe? What would happen if before reacting with anger, you took 3 deep breaths? What would change if before going to sleep, you dedicated 5 minutes to slow, deep breathing? Studies show that nighttime breathing practices reduce insomnia by up to 60% and improve sleep quality by 80%. If that's the power of a few minutes, imagine what would happen if mindful breathing became a consistent habit in your life. But there's a pattern break here that can't be ignored. If breathing is the key, why don't we use it? The truth is, we've been conditioned to believe that solutions need to be complex, technological, and external. We forget that the greatest secrets lie precisely in what we do most naturally. Tesla said that the future of humanity wouldn't lie in external machines, but in mastering the energy within. Breathing is the most democratic act there is. No one can breathe for you, and no one can stop you from doing it. But transforming this gesture into an instrument of power is a conscious choice. Perhaps this is what's most frightening, realizing that we already have in our hands the tool that can shift our frequency. Because by accepting this, we stop waiting for change to come from outside. And when you understand that each inhalation can align you with the universal field, and each exhalation can clear dense energies, it's no longer possible to live on autopilot. The modern world has trained us to consume air as if we were consuming any other resource. But what would happen if we started treating it as sacred, as living vibrational energy? Tesla believed that each breath was a dialogue with the cosmos. He saw the act of inhaling as absorbing the vibration of the universe, and the act of exhaling as returning one's own vibration to the universe. This constant exchange reminds us of something powerful. We are never disconnected. Each breath is proof that we belong to a larger circuit. And the big question is, what are you returning with each exhalation? Is it tension, fear, anger? Or is it calm, clarity, and confidence? This simple question can change the way you live your day-to-day life, because there is no neutrality. You are already participating in this dialogue. Your breath is already returning something to the invisible field. The only question is whether you will do so unconsciously, repeating the sounds of fear, or whether you will decide to transform each breath into an act of conscious creation. And now comes the suspenseful point that leads to the next step. If breathing can change the way you feel, think, and act in a matter of minutes, how far can we go if we make this act a true ritual of attunement with the universe? Tesla said that the human body is an energy capacitor, and that breathing is the simplest way to charge this invisible battery. But what would happen if we learned to keep this charge high at all times? What would happen if, instead of living discharged, we lived in expansion? This is not just a physiological issue, but the beginning of a vibrational transformation that can completely change the way we experience reality. And here's the provocation. If each breath is an invisible thread connecting you to the cosmos, what are you waiting for to start breathing as if your life depended on it? Because deep down, it does. Imagine for a moment that your body is not just a collection of organs, muscles, and bones, but a living antenna designed to capture and transmit invisible frequencies that traverse the universe. Nikola Tesla believed exactly this. The human body is not just any biological machine, but a vibrational technology so advanced that science has only scratched its surface. When we think of antennas, we think of metal structures erected to capture radio signals, satellites that send information over unimaginable distances, or invisible networks connecting billions of devices. But the truth, according to Tesla, is that every human being is born with the most sophisticated antenna of all, their own body. This idea seems strange until we consider everyday experiences. Who hasn't been near someone and felt an energy that couldn't be explained in words? It could be the immediate discomfort felt when faced with an aggressive person, even before they open their mouth. It could be the feeling of lightness and calm when we're in the presence of someone balanced. These phenomena are not a figment of our imagination. They are proof that our bodies radiate and receive signals. The human heart, for example, generates an electromagnetic field up to 5,000 times stronger than the brain's, and this field can be detected meters away. This means that your presence already communicates something, even in silence. Tesla sensed this reality long before modern instruments confirmed it. But here comes the first pattern break. If we are living antennae, why do we live as if we were mere flesh? Perhaps because we've been trained to ignore the subtle signals our bodies capture and emit. Modern civilization has taught us to value only what is measurable through the physical senses: sight, hearing, touch. But what about what we feel without logical explanation? That sudden tension in the air, that shiver on our skin, that premonition that makes us change direction. How many times have you ignored these signals and later realized they were correct? The body speaks in a language older than reason, and when we stop listening to it, we shut down the antenna that could guide us in silence. Tesla compared the human body to an electrical circuit. He said that every movement, every emotion, and every thought generated impulses that circulated like invisible currents. Today, we know that even bones can generate electricity through a phenomenon called piezoelectricity, where mechanical pressure creates tiny electrical charges. This means that even a walk or a simple stretch are more than exercise. They are ways of generating electricity within the body itself. Perhaps that's why we feel renewed after a run or even a dance. It's not just endorphins. It's actual electrical energy circulating, adjusting the antenna. And if it's true that the body is an antenna, then we need to ask, are we transmitting clearly or with noise? Consider your posture. When you slouch, close your shoulders, and contract your body, your antenna loses range. Its field becomes confused. When you stand up straight, open your chest, and breathe deeply, the signal expands. Scientific experiments have shown that posture even influences hormone production. An open posture increases confidence, while closed postures reinforce anxiety. This proves what Tesla already said: the body is not passive. It shapes the way we communicate with the invisible field. Now, consider the following scene: an orchestra in which each instrument is out of tune. The result is an unbearable noise. The same is true when our emotions, thoughts, and movements are in conflict. Every part of the body transmits a frequency, but if there's no harmony, the field around us becomes chaotic. This is why people in states of anger or confusion seem to contaminate entire environments. The noise they carry is transmitted to everyone, but when someone enters a space in a state of balance, the resonance spreads and reorganizes, even the silence around them. Have you ever noticed how some people are able to calm a room simply by being present? This is the body as an antenna in full action. Tesla believed that humanity's true revolution would come when we understood that our bodies are not prisoners of matter, but instruments of cosmic transmission and reception. And here lies an uncomfortable conflict. If every gesture is an emission, what are we emitting most of the time? How many of our daily movements carry fear, haste, tension, anger? Have you ever noticed how hurried people become contagious, as if they pass their anxiety to everyone around them? And how many times has someone serenely transformed their energy simply by the way they walked or spoke? There's also a collective dimension to this living antenna. Experiments conducted by the HeartMath Institute in the United States showed that when groups of people breathe together in a harmonious rhythm, their heartbeats tend to synchronize. This means we share not only ideas, but also vibrational fields. The body doesn't exist in isolation. It connects to other bodies, forming invisible networks. Tesla would have been fascinated by these results because they confirm his intuition that humanity forms a gigantic circuit where each human being is a node radiating signals. But if we are antennas, we also need to talk about interference. What happens when we spend time in chaotic environments? Our body begins to pick up external noise, absorbing vibrations that don't belong to us. That's why we sometimes leave a meeting exhausted, even without having said much. Or why being around someone constantly negative can drain us, as if sucking our energy. The body's antenna not only transmits, but also receives. And if we don't learn to filter or recalibrate, we become reservoirs of noise. How many times have you carried someone's anger or sadness without realizing it? Tesla believed the solution lay in vibrational discipline. Just as a radio needs to be tuned to capture the right frequency, we also need to learn to calibrate our bodies. This isn't limited to physical exercise, but to conscious movements, gestures performed with attention, and postures that open clearer transmission channels. It's no coincidence that practices like yoga, tai chi, and qigong are called energy arts. Their movements aren't just stretches, but ways of aligning the human antenna with universal frequencies. What once seemed like spirituality, Tesla translated as the science of vibration. But here's the surprise. Even without knowing these practices, you already experience the power of your body as an antenna in ordinary moments. When you hug someone sincerely, your heart rate tends to align. When you sing in a group, your breathing and heartbeat resonate with others. When you dance, you not only move your muscles, but also create internal electrical discharges that alter your energy. These are moments when your antenna naturally recalibrates. And if this can happen in simple gestures, imagine what would be possible if we learned to consciously use our bodies as transmitters. Tesla said that energy is neutral, and it's up to us to direct it. This means that even our pain and tension can be transformed. A rigid body transmits blockages, but when we release this rigidity, we also release trapped energy. How many times have you felt renewed after crying, after an intense workout, or even after laughing until you were breathless? The body discharges and recalibrates, making room for a clearer transmission. Perhaps this is why ancient cultures used rituals of movement, dance, and song as ways to cleanse and protect their energies. They knew, intuitively, that the body is the key. And here comes a final reflection for this section. If every gesture, every posture, every movement transmits something to the universe, what are you transmitting right now? Is your body closed or open? Is it emitting clarity or confusion? Is it aligned like an antenna raised to the sky or bent under the weight of daily noise? What would happen if you decided, starting today, to consciously use your body as a transmitter of the reality you wish to create? Tesla believed this would be the next great revolution. Not external machines, but human beings awakened to the vibrational power of their own bodies. He said the future belongs to those who learn to control their frequencies. If this is true, then each of us faces a choice. Continue to emit noise unconsciously, or learn to clearly transmit the frequency that can change not only our own lives, but also the world around us. And here lies the provocation that paves the way for the final stage of this journey. If the body is a living antenna, already transmitting signals all the time, what will happen when we learn to use it to its fullest potential, transforming not only our internal states but the very reality that surrounds us? This is the frontier that lies just ahead, and it's impossible to cross it without asking, what do you want to transmit to the universe through the antenna that you already are? What if your entire life up until now had been the precise response to the frequencies you've emitted without realizing it? What if every defeat, every unexpected encounter, every opportunity lost or gained were less a result of chance and more a reflection of your constant vibration? Nikola Tesla believed this so deeply that he shaped his life and experiments based on this certainty. The universe is a vibrating mirror, a sensitive field that never errs, that returns with mathematical precision what we transmit. This idea, although seemingly simple, is one of the most challenging we can face, because it forces us to abandon the belief that we are at the mercy of luck or circumstance. It calls us to radical responsibility, and at the same time, it restores to us the power we may have forgotten we possess. Now that we've covered the path of the previous sections, recognizing the mind as a transmitter, the breath as a key, the body as a living antenna, we reach the final frontier: how to transform this knowledge into daily practice. What's the point of understanding theory if we continue to live on autopilot, transmitting chaotic noise? Tesla didn't believe in inert truths. For him, knowledge only became real when applied. His own life was proof of this. He wasn't content to imagine. He tested, visualized, repeated, and adjusted until the idea became reality. Therefore, if we want to honor this legacy, we need to transform each concept into a strategic action plan, simple yet profoundly transformative. The first step is conscious observation. It seems small, but it's revolutionary. Set aside a few minutes each day to observe your thoughts and emotions without judging them. Ask yourself, what am I transmitting right now? Imagine your mind is a radio and each idea is a frequency. This simple practice creates space between you and autopilot. You may initially notice that you transmit more fear, anxiety, or resentment than you'd like. Don't blame yourself. Awareness is the beginning of change, because what becomes visible can no longer secretly control your life. The second step is intentional breathing. Tesla saw air as a vehicle for cosmic energy, and ancient traditions have always treated breathing as a bridge between body and spirit. Dedicate 3 minutes a day to a simple practice. Inhale deeply for a count of 4, hold for 4, and exhale for a count of 6. This pattern sends the body a message of safety, organizes the nervous system, and recalibrates its internal antenna. If practiced daily, it transforms not only your immediate state, but also your dominant frequency. It seems small, but 3 minutes can be enough to change the course of an entire day. The third step is energetic cleansing. Just as machines need maintenance, our antennas also accumulate interference. Use simple rituals to cleanse your field. This could be a conscious bath, imagining that the water dissolves all densities. It could be walking outdoors, visualizing each step releasing invisible weights. It could even be writing down emotions you wish to release on a piece of paper and then discarding it. These gestures are not merely symbolic, they are real transmissions of intention. And intention, when repeated, shapes the field around you. The fourth step is vibrational programming. Choose a short, meaningful phrase that expresses what you want to radiate. It could be, I transmit calm, I am clarity, or I generate confidence. Repeat daily, preferably in deep silence, feeling the weight of the words in your body. Tesla believed in the mathematics of repetition. What is repeated emits consistent patterns that the field inevitably returns. Intentional repetition replaces unconscious noise and establishes a clear frequency. The fifth step is to align action and vibration. It's not enough to think and breathe differently. You must act coherently. You want to convey confidence? Act confidently, even in simple gestures. If you want to convey organization, start by tidying up your space. If you want to convey peace, choose words that convey calm. Every action is an extension of your emission, and the more your actions reflect your intention, the stronger your frequency becomes. The sixth step is transmutation. This is perhaps the most challenging, but also the most liberating. Don't fight your dense emotions. Use them as fuel. When you feel fear, transform it into focus. When you feel anger, breathe and direct that energy to act with clarity. When you feel sadness, allow it to become pause and depth. Tesla believed that energy is never lost, only transformed. If this is true, then no emotion is an enemy. All are raw material. The secret is learning to ride the current instead of being swept away by it. And why is this plan strategic? Because it unites theory and practice, thought and body, intention and gesture. It's not about grand external revolutions, but about consistent, daily, small changes that together reprogram your dominant frequency. Imagine what happens if you maintain these steps for weeks, months, years. Little by little, your life will begin to reflect new responses. Doors that were previously closed open. Different people approach you. Situations that seemed repetitive dissolve. Not because the world outside has changed by itself, but because your antenna has begun transmitting a different frequency. But here's the most important point. Discipline. Tesla didn't arrive at his discoveries by chance. He experimented, iterated, refined. Vibrational practice demands the same. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. There will be days when you forget, when you're swallowed by noise, when you can't maintain clarity. But even on those days, just return, breathe, observe, repeat. The field doesn't require you to never make mistakes. It only requires you to keep transmitting. Each time you return to the path, you strengthen the frequency. And now think, what would happen if an entire community of people began to live this way? What would happen if, instead of transmitting collective fear, we transmitted clarity? If, instead of spreading chaos, we spread harmony? Tesla said that the future belongs to those who control their frequencies. Perhaps that future is not far away. Perhaps it begins here, with each person deciding to take responsibility for the field they emit. This is the reflection I want to leave you with. Your life is not static, it is a response. The universe is not silent, it is a vibrant mirror. The question is not whether you are transmitting, but what you are transmitting. And the decision is not whether you will create, but what you will create. Until now, you may have lived as an unconscious messenger of inherited patterns, ancient fears, and other people's beliefs. But from now on, you can choose to be the architect of your reality. This is the invitation Tesla left us, and it is the challenge I place before you. And if this message touched you in any way, if it provoked reflections, feelings, or even discomfort, I invite you to take a simple but significant step. Subscribe to this channel to continue this journey. Leave your like so this vibration reaches more people who, like you, seek to understand and transform their frequencies. And share your experiences, questions, or reflections in the comments. If you prefer, do so anonymously. What matters is not the name, but the energy that each voice adds to this collective field. Because together, we can strengthen the frequency of a new reality. Take a deep breath now. Close your eyes for a moment. Ask yourself, what frequency will I choose to transmit from today on? May this choice become your silent commitment, and may you remember each day that you do not walk alone. Life itself is always responding.